I knew something was wrong the moment the candle on my untouched birthday cake flickered. Not from the breeze, but from the way my own breath shook. I sat alone at a round table dressed in soft golden light, the kind restaurants used to make families look warmer, closer, happier. Across from me was an empty chair. The one I saved for my son, Daniel. A little white name card lay on top of the plate. I wrote it myself this morning, my hands trembling with excitement, not fear. Now those same hands felt cold. Waiters drifted around me, their polite smiles tightening each time they passed. I recognized the look. They were wondering why an older woman was eating alone on her birthday. Pity is a quiet sound. I heard it in their footsteps. I kept my phone in my palm, screen lighting up my face every few seconds, reflecting hope that was slowly draining out of me. Every time the door opened, I straightened my back, forced a smile, and whispered to myself, "He promised." My own voice sounded thin, cracking at the edges. The restaurant smelled of warm garlic and fresh bread, comforting scents, but somehow they made the emptiness louder. The chatter from nearby families felt like echoes of something I used to have. A laugh here. A clink of glasses there. All of it pressing against me like a memory I didn't want to remember. I touched the seat next to me, Daniel's seat. I imagined him sliding into it with that gentle half-smile he used to have as a boy. But the cushion was cold. Like he had never intended to be here at all. Then my phone buzzed. A sharp, cruel vibration that made my stomach tighten. A social media notification. I shouldn't have looked. I should have put the phone away, spared myself the ache. But I opened it. And there he was. My son. My Daniel. Laughing. Sitting at another restaurant, one far more expensive than this one, leaning close to his wife, Amanda. Her manicured hand rested on his arm. Her red lipstick still glossy, as if she just leaned in to kiss him. The caption beneath the photo hit harder than the image itself. Date night with my queen. The world around me dimmed. The warm lights, the soft music, the murmured conversations, they all collapsed into a ringing silence. I felt my throat tighten, my chest hollow out. My fingers dug into the tablecloth as I whispered through a broken breath. I saved him a seat, but he saved his time for someone else. The candle flame trembled again. This time, I knew it wasn't the breeze. Because in that moment, something inside me cracked. A small, fragile place I had protected for years. A place only a child can break. I stared at the photo, at his smile, at her possessive grip on him. And something cold and sharp slid into my mind. A realization. A truth I had ignored for too long. I lifted my eyes from the glowing screen and said the words that would set everything in motion. But what Daniel didn't know was that his date night would destroy more than my birthday. A beat of silence. A deeper breath. It would destroy the lies he built his marriage on. And that was the moment everything began to unravel. People often assume loneliness arrives suddenly. Like a door slamming shut. But mine didn't. It crept in softly, over years. Like dust settling on shelves you used to clean with excitement. My name is Kathy Marwood. I'm 64 years old. A widow for 13 years. The house Daniel grew up in still smells faintly of cedar and lemon polish, scents my late husband loved. Sometimes, when the afternoon sun hits the living room window just right, I swear I can see the outline of his shoulder in his old reading chair. That's the curse of memory. It flickers like a ghost in the light. For most of my adult life, it was just the three of us. My husband, me, and our boy, Daniel. He was gentle, thoughtful, the kind of child who brought home crushed flowers because he thought I'd like them. He used to grip my hands so tightly when we crossed the street, as though letting go meant losing the world itself. But children grow. And sometimes when they do, they forget what their fingers once held onto. After my husband passed, Daniel became my entire universe. Not because I made him, but because everything else felt like dim echoes. I supported him through college, working extra shifts, skipping my own needs, pretending I wasn't tired. I supported him when he proposed to Amanda, buying fabric for the wedding I wasn't invited to help plan. And I supported him when his career took off, cheering through the phone while sitting alone at my kitchen table. That's a mother's job, isn't it? To clap even when no one is watching. I remember the first time I met Amanda. She was beautiful in a polished, sharp way, like crystal glass that could cut you if you held it wrong. She smiled at me with lips but not eyes, her voice syrupy sweet in public. Then oddly cool when she pulled Daniel aside to whisper, "We don't have time to stay long." It happened again. And again. At parties. At dinners. At family gatherings. Always the same pattern. In public? She clung to Daniel's arm, laughing too brightly. In private? Her tone tightened, her gaze hardened, and she guided him like a puppeteer hidden behind a curtain. I saw it. I felt it. The subtle tugs. The invisible strings. The way she squeezed his wrist when he spoke too long to me. The way she answered his phone when I called. As if I were a caller ID she didn't approve of. But Daniel never noticed. Or maybe he noticed. And chose peace over confrontation. I didn't blame him. Marriage is a fragile thing. A mother shouldn't be the reason it cracks. So I stayed quiet. I stepped aside. And my world became smaller, room by room, memory by memory. Quiet mornings. Quiet dinners. Quiet birthdays. Except for one thing. Our tradition. No matter what changed. No matter how busy life became. Daniel never missed my birthday. Not once. Even when money was tight, even when he worked night shifts, even when he moved across the state. He always showed up. "Just you and me, Mom," he'd say with that old half-smile I used to know. I lived for that day. That little window of sunlight. Which is why, when he called me a week ago, his voice rushed and warm, saying, "Mom, I'll be there. First thing. I promise." I believed him. I needed to. Something inside me whispered that this year could heal what had been quietly breaking for years. So I booked a table for 3. Me. My son. His wife. Because I thought if we sat together under warm lights and gentle music, maybe she would soften. Maybe she would see me not as an inconvenience, but as family. I even ordered her favorite dessert, though I've never understood how she likes something as bitter as dark chocolate. I told myself this birthday would be different. Hope can be foolish like that. Glowing brightest right before it burns out. I spent the morning cleaning my small house, humming, telling myself this was the start of mending things. I wrapped a small gift for Daniel. A framed photo of us from when he was 5, holding my hand. His grin was missing a tooth. My hair was messy. We looked happy. As I placed the frame in a gift bag, my chest warmed. But that warmth would not last. I stepped out of my door, clutching the gift, not knowing that the moment I fastened my seatbelt, the first thread of my world was already beginning to unravel. And by the end of the night, I would learn truths I wasn't ready for. Truths that had been kept from me. Protected behind perfect smiles. and edited photographs. Truths that would destroy everything I thought I knew. Morning light slipped through my thin curtains, warm and soft, almost gentle enough to quiet the nervous flutter in my chest. It was my 64th birthday, and for the first time in years, I woke up excited. I sat up carefully, brushing my hair back with the same old silver comb Daniel bought me when he was 10. The edges are worn now, but I kept it all these years. Just like I kept every memory of him. Today, I told myself, would be different. Today, he promised. I walked to the kitchen, humming without realizing it, and prepared tea. The house was quiet, too quiet, yet for once, the silence didn't hurt. Because I knew it wouldn't last. Any moment, Daniel would text. "Happy birthday, Mom. On my way." That was what he always did. Every year. Every single year. I sat at the dining table and took out the little box I'd been working on all week, a handmade wooden key holder, carved with tiny roses. I sanded it 3 times so he wouldn't get a splinter. I polished it twice because he always loved things that shine. And on the back, I burned a small inscription. "For Daniel, you'll always have a key to my heart." It wasn't expensive, but it was made from the kind of love money can't buy. As I tied a ribbon around it, a memory washed over me. Daniel at 5 years old, running into my room with a crooked paper crown on his head. "Mommy, happy birthday." He was so proud of himself, flour on his face, holding a cupcake he tried to bake alone. The bottom was completely burnt, but I ate every bite. To this day, nothing has ever tasted sweeter. I smiled at the memory, then reached for my phone. 8:15 a.m. No message. That was unusual. He always texted early. Still, I didn't worry. Maybe he was getting ready. Maybe he was helping Amanda with something. I typed, "Good morning, sweetheart, can't wait to see you today." I hit send. The little delivered icon appeared instantly. But the reply never came. Minutes passed. Then half an hour. Then an hour. The smile on my face stayed, but it grew heavier, tighter. Like it was trying to hide something from my own heart. Something I didn't want to believe. Something I wasn't ready to face. Not yet. By late morning, the silence felt different. Not empty. But wrong. I stared at my phone again. Still no reply. Daniel was never like this. Even when he was drowning in deadlines. Even when Amanda dragged him from one social event to another. He always made time. Always. I decided to call him, just to hear his voice, just to ease the strange tightness in my chest. The phone rang once. Twice. On the 3rd ring, someone picked up. But it wasn't Daniel. It was Louisiana, Amanda's younger sister, the one who moved in temporarily 2 years ago and never left. Her tone hit me like cold water. "Yes?" "Oh. Louisiana, sweetheart. Is Daniel around?" "Today's." She cut me off mid-sentence. Her voice, sharp and annoyed. "He's busy. He'll call you back later." Just like that. No greeting. No warmth. No happy birthday. Just irritation. Like my voice alone ruined her morning. I swallowed the sting. Oh, all right. Tell him I called, please." She mumbled. Then the line went dead. No goodbye. I sat there staring at the phone, the dial tone echoing in the quiet kitchen. "Busy?" On my birthday? It wasn't like him. Not at all. But I shook my head and forced a smile. Maybe he had a client emergency. Maybe the kids were giving him trouble. Maybe Amanda needed help with something. Maybe. I gathered all those maybes like tiny bandages, trying to cover the wound forming inside me. I whispered to myself, "He'll call. He always does." But the hours slipped by. The sun shifted in the living room. The tea grew cold. The handmade gift sat untouched on the table. And my phone? Completely silent. Still. I refused to let sadness take the day from me. Today was supposed to be special. I held on to that thought like it was the only thing keeping my heart steady. "Stay positive," I whispered. Daniel would never forget. And I chose, deliberately, to believe that. Even though somewhere deep inside, a tiny voice was trying to warn me. I arrived 30 minutes early. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted the table to feel perfect before Daniel walked in. The restaurant doors opened with a soft chime, and warm golden light spilled across the floor. The place smelled of buttered rolls, roasted rosemary chicken, and something sweet baking in the back. It felt welcoming, comforting, like the kind of place a mother would choose to celebrate with her only child. The host recognized me. He always did. "Oh, Mrs. Kathy," he beamed, "happy birthday. Your table is ready." His kindness made something flutter in my chest. He led me to a table by the window. The one with the softest lighting. The clearest view of the entrance. And the gentle afternoon sun warming the floor beneath it. I sat down slowly, smoothing the edge of the tablecloth. The seat across from me looked expectant, almost hopeful. "Could I order something to start?" I asked. "Of course," the waiter said, pulling out his notepad. Just a sparkling citrus cooler. Daniel's favorite. He'll want it cold when he arrives." My smile trembled at the edges, but I kept it steady. The waiter nodded warmly, as if he could feel the tenderness behind my words. As I waited, I kept touching the chair he would sit in, adjusting it, aligning the silverware, making sure the napkin looked tidy. Little things. Mother things. Every few minutes, I glanced toward the door. Any second now, I thought. He'll walk in, breathless and apologetic, hugging me before sitting down. Just like every year. The waiter returned with the drink, condensation dripping down the glass. He placed it gently in front of the empty chair. "Looks perfect," I whispered. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. The ice in the glass began to melt, tiny droplets sliding down like tears. I checked my phone. Nothing. I checked the door again. Still nothing. A soft knot formed in my stomach, tight, uncomfortable, but I forced a smile as the waiter approached. "Still expecting someone, ma'am?" "Oh, yes. Daniel." My voice stretched thin, like it was being pulled from my throat. "He must be stuck in traffic." The waiter nodded politely, though I saw the quick flicker in his eyes. A small, worried kindness people give when they're afraid the truth might hurt you. Another 30 minutes passed. The sun dipped lower. The restaurant grew louder. Forks clanked. Laughter rose from nearby tables. But at mine, only silence. And a slowly warming drink. I clasped my hands tightly in my lap to keep them from shaking. "He'll come," I whispered to myself. He promised. But inside, something fragile had begun to crack. Quietly, painfully. like thin glass under pressure. And still, I kept my eyes on the door, hoping, waiting. The restaurant had grown fuller now, the hum of conversations blending with soft piano music from the speakers. But around me, it felt as if the world had gone painfully still. I kept my gaze fixed on the entrance, pretending not to notice the looks forming around me. But some glances are impossible to ignore. A couple at the table behind me whispered, their voices low but not low enough. "Is she still alone?" "Yes." "Poor woman, she's been waiting for so long. She keeps checking the door. Bless her heart." The words hit me like cold wind. My cheeks warmed instantly. That kind of heat that feels like shame soaking through your skin. I straightened my posture, pretending I hadn't heard a thing. Pretending the crack in my dignity wasn't widening with every passing second. The waiter approached again, his tone gentle, overly gentle. The kind of voice people use when they're trying not to make you cry. "Can I get you anything else while you wait, Mrs. Kathy?" "No, thank you," I whispered. "I'm sure he's on his way." But my throat tightened on the last word. I looked down at my phone. My lock screen showed the time. And the photo of Daniel holding me on Mother's Day 3 years ago. He looked so happy. So proud to be my son. Where was that boy now? With a trembling thumb, I opened our chat and typed, "Honey, everything okay? I'm already here." I stared at the message before hitting send, as if sending it might somehow expose the desperation hiding behind my smile. Then I pressed it. Delivered. But not read. The little gray circle sat there, mocking me with its quietness. I waited. 10 seconds. 15. 30. Still nothing. No typing bubbles. No apology. No explanation. Just silence, stretching and stretching until it felt like a rope tightening around my ribs. I slowly placed my phone on the table, next to his untouched drink. The ice had melted completely now. My chest felt hollow. And for the first time that day, a thought crept in. Dangerous, unwelcome. What if he wasn't coming at all? I pushed that thought away immediately. No. Daniel would never do that. He wouldn't. I lifted my chin, fought the sting in my eyes, and looked toward the door again. Wishing for a miracle, but bracing for the hurt I could feel approaching. Quiet, steady, and inevitable. The restaurant's soft hum of conversation faded into the back of my mind. I barely noticed the clinking of glasses, the laughter of families celebrating, the faint smell of roasted garlic mingling with vanilla from dessert plates. My phone vibrated sharply on the table, startling me. I picked it up with trembling fingers. A message from my friend, Claire. "Kathy, isn't this your son?" I frowned, a tiny pang of worry in my chest. I clicked the link. And froze. There he was. Daniel. Smiling. Laughing. Sitting at a table across the city, dressed sharply, leaning toward Amanda. Her hand rested possessively on his arm. The camera caught every detail, the dim golden light of the restaurant, the sparkling wine, the delicate candle flames. It was intimate. It was deliberate. Beneath the photo, the caption stabbed me harder than any knife ever could. Date night with my beautiful wife. My hands went limp. The cup of water in front of me rattled when I tried to set it down. The condensation dripped slowly onto the tablecloth, like seconds slipping through my fingers. I swallowed. My lips trembled. My throat constricted until I could barely breathe. He lied again, I whispered. The words barely escaped, jagged and wet. I pressed my trembling palms against my face, trying to stop the tears, but they came anyway, hot and slow. A single droplet slid down my cheek. Then another. The waiter glanced at me from across the room, concern in his eyes. I forced a smile. Just a tiny one. A mask for the strangers and the pitying couple nearby. Give him 10 more minutes. I whispered it quietly, though I already knew. My son wasn't coming. The hollow in my chest stretched wider, deeper. Every heartbeat sounded like a warning bell, echoing in the empty chair across from me. I touched the cushion he was supposed to sit on, imagining his weight pressing down. But it was cold. Empty. Like the promises he had made, soft, warm words that never arrived. Around me, the restaurant went on. Waiters moved past, candles flickered, couples laughed. And I sat alone, holding a digital image of a life I thought was mine. I realized, with a pit deep in my stomach, tonight wasn't just about a birthday. It was about betrayal. About distance. About the truth I hadn't wanted to see. And in that moment, as I wiped my tears and pressed the phone back down, I felt something stir inside me. Something that refused to break quietly. A thought, small at first, then bigger, sharper, and colder. He may have saved his time for her, but I will save mine for the truth. I left the restaurant quietly, letting the door close softly behind me. The chime echoed like a small, sad bell in the empty parking lot. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The night air hit me, crisp, faintly smelling of wet pavement and faint exhaust. My coat felt heavy on my shoulders, though the temperature was mild. I tucked my hands inside the pockets, gripping them like I was holding onto a fragment of my own strength. I didn't call him. I didn't text him. Not yet. There was a long, winding path home under the streetlights. They cast long shadows across the pavement, flickering as cars passed by. I walked slowly, each step careful, deliberate, as if dragging my feet would make time itself pause. Families passed me on the sidewalks, laughing and holding hands. A father lifted his small daughter onto his shoulders. A mother carried a birthday cake, candle flames trembling in the night air. Each scene pressed into me like a reminder of what I had lost, or maybe never fully had. And then I remembered. A flashback, sudden, vivid, uninvited. My husband. His hand on mine, strong and warm. His voice low but firm, the kind that could make you stand straighter without moving a muscle. Never let anyone make you feel small, darling. I can still hear it. Still feel the weight of it. His eyes steady, unwavering, filled with that quiet kind of love that doesn't need words to be felt. I stopped walking. The memory hit me like a wave I couldn't brace for. And then it came, the truth I hadn't wanted to see. I had allowed Daniel, my own son, to make me feel small. To break promises. To put someone else first. All those years I had bent, adjusted, excused. Thinking it was love. Thinking it was patience. Thinking it was normal. I had forgotten my husband's words. And I had let my own heart shrink in the process. The streetlights flickered overhead. Shadows stretched long and thin across the pavement, like the emptiness creeping into me. I held my hands over my chest, where the hollow pain throbbed. But beneath that ache, beneath the quiet heartbreak, a small ember of something else began to glow. Anger. Resolve. A thought that whispered in the cold night air. He may have tried to forget my worth, but I have not. And with that, my steps became firmer. Not faster. Not rushed. Just firmer. Steady. I didn't know how this night would end. I didn't know what I would do when I saw him next. But one thing I knew clearly in that quiet, lonely walk home. I walked into my small apartment, the door clicking softly behind me. The walls, dim in the fading evening light, seemed to close in a little. I sank into my favorite armchair, the one that always smelled faintly of cedar polish, and let the tears flow freely. Not the polite kind of tears you show in public, but deep, ragged ones that clawed at your chest and left you hollow and raw. I thought about the photograph, Daniel laughing, Amanda's hand on his arm, the caption flashing like a neon blade across my mind. The betrayal had been sharp, immediate, and now, the ache lingered like smoke in a closed room. Then, ring. My phone vibrated against the wooden table. The caller ID made my chest twist. Daniel. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me needed to hear him. Mom, his voice broke the silence, trembling. I'm so sorry. I felt the walls of my chest press inward. I'm listening, I whispered, voice barely steady. He took a shaky breath. Mom, it wasn't a date. Amanda, she made me post it. She didn't want me to see you today. I froze. Not fully comprehending. Not yet. His voice shook as he went on. She controls my schedule, my social media. She gets angry if I even think about visiting you. She tells me that you're a burden. I sank deeper into the armchair, gripping my knees. Every word he said landed like a hammer, but mixed with a strange relief. Because now I understood it wasn't him rejecting me. I stayed silent, listening. Not interrupting. Not comforting him. Just hearing the truth unfold. When he finally paused, I reached for my phone. I had done something earlier that I hadn't dared hope would matter. I had recorded her call. The one where Amanda had hissed insults, lied, and said Daniel shouldn't visit me. I had screenshots of the posts. The timestamps. Everything neat, undeniable, in my hands. I waited a heartbeat. Then I spoke, calm and steady. Daniel. I don't want revenge. I just want you to see the truth. I heard him inhale sharply on the other end. The silence that followed carried weight, thick and heavy like the air before a storm breaks. You did this? His voice cracked, half disbelief, half relief. Yes, I said. Now you know who's really trying to control your life, and why your promises went unanswered. A pause. Then, quietly. Mom. Thank you. I don't know what I would have done without this. I didn't answer. I simply felt something warm stir inside, a quiet power. Not vindictive. Not cruel. Just honest. Finally, I whispered to the empty apartment, to the night air itself. Truth matters more than appearances. And in that moment, I realized. I was no longer just waiting. I was no longer helpless. I was seen. I was heard. And for the first time tonight, I felt in control. The knock at my door was sharp, urgent. Not the soft, polite knock of a visitor, but the kind that carries anger, desperation, and fear all at once. Mom. Daniel's voice. It was strained, fractured, almost unrecognizable. I opened the door to see him standing there, his face pale, eyes wide, shoulders tense. He's home, I whispered to myself, though I already knew this was the moment we had both been waiting for. Daniel stepped inside, moving past me with a barely contained storm brewing behind his eyes. Amanda was already in the living room, pretending calm, lips tight, hands clasped as if nothing had happened. "I don't know what you're talking about," she snapped as Daniel's gaze landed on her. But the tremor in her voice betrayed her confidence. I held up my phone. The recording began to play. Her voice, cold and sharp, cutting through the room. "He doesn't need to see his mother today. She's a burden. Don't let her distract you." Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. Daniel froze. His hands clenched at his sides. And for the first time in years, he looked ashamed, but awake. "Mom," he whispered, voice breaking. I didn't know how deep it went. She started talking at once, frantically. No, that's not what I meant. You're twisting my words. I was trying to protect you." Her calm facade shattered, tears spilling down her face, but they were not tears of remorse. They were tears of panic, of being exposed. She tried to spin the story, shifting blame, painting herself as the victim. But every word rang hollow. Daniel finally stepped forward, voice rising for the first time with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. "You made me abandon my own mother, on her birthday." The room went still. The words hung heavy in the air. Amanda's face fell, the power she wielded crumbling under the weight of truth. She didn't say another word. She stormed out, slamming the door with enough force to make the walls shiver. Daniel sank into the armchair across from me, burying his face in his hands. I failed you, Mom," he whispered, his voice raw, trembling. I let her control me. I didn't stand up for you." I knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "It's not too late, Daniel. You're here now. That's what matters." He lifted his head, tears streaking his cheeks, and for the first time I saw the boy I raised, vulnerable, honest, and desperate for comfort. I couldn't hold back my own tears any longer. They slid down my cheeks, warm and liberating. We sat there together, hands intertwined, crying in unison. Not in anger. Not in shame. But in the quiet, cleansing realization that the truth had finally set us free. The storm had passed, at least for now. And in that moment, I felt an emotion I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Love. A fragile, trembling, unshakable hope that we could begin again. The morning sun filtered softly through the kitchen blinds, golden and forgiving. Daniel sat across from me, coffee in hand, voice steady but tender. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I don't ever want to hurt you like that again." I reached across the table, touching his hand. "I know, Daniel. I know." He smiled, the kind of small, shy smile he used to give me when he was a boy. "Why don't you move a little closer? I want you around more. We can rebuild our tradition. Breakfasts, weekly dinners, just us, like before." My heart lifted, warm and full, as I nodded. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I'd like that very much." As for Amanda, she moved forward with counseling and eventually separation. A chapter closed, but the lessons lingered: truth, courage, boundaries. I sat back, the soft hum of the kitchen around me, the scent of fresh toast and brewed coffee wrapping the room in comfort. I thought about the years I had spent waiting, worrying, forgiving quietly. And I realized Sometimes the people we love forget our worth, until life forces their eyes open. I smiled gently, a tear sliding down my cheek. The past was behind us. The future, waiting, soft and bright. I look at the empty chair across from me and wonder, what would you do in my shoes? Tell me, if your child abandoned you on your birthday, would you forgive them? Or would you walk away and protect your own heart? I want to hear your story, your choices, your pain. Because sometimes, the hardest decisions teach us the most about love and about ourselves.